Hello and welcome to another edition of the OCVarsity Gridiron Show. This is week tres. That's Spanish, Steve.
Sí, es verdad.
Took me 3 years to pass Spanish too, but I got there. All right, here we go. We're, game of the week, 3-0 Mater Dei. They are going to be taking on St. Francis. Who's St. Francis? They're one of the best teams nationally. Number 1, number 2, number 3, depending on which ranking you look at. From Maryland, this is in the Trinity League Showcase. This will be Saturday at St. John Bosco. A little bit different this year. They're doing a thing where it's like Trinity League versus the USA, so it's a cool concept. Mater Dei beat Centennial of Arizona last week, 71-21, and their quarterback, Mr. Young, had a record-setting performance, didn't he, Steve?
Yeah, 528 yards, I think, was the final tally, Dan. It's 538.
Carry the one.
It keeps going up, and then a handful of touchdowns with 7 TDs as well. So some school records there, 31 completions out of 37 tosses. Cody Epps was great catching the ball. Ware Hudson was great catching the ball, and it was It was 50-0 at halftime, I believe, Dan. So it was quite a whitewash over there. But they got a big challenge this week, guys, because St. Francis Academy is really good. They've got a really good sophomore quarterback who's 6 foot, 205, named John Griffith. This Blake Corum running back is really good for them too. Also catches the ball well coming out of the backfield, and their front line on both sides of the ball, like 280 to 320. Probably the first team that, until they play Bosco, the only team that'll really match up sort of size-wise with the Monarchs in the front.
It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see these big boys go at it. A little bit more info, Dan, on St. Francis. They haven't lost since 2016 to IMG, who Mater Dei beat last year. And, hey, these guys play teams all across the country, kind of like what the Trinity League's doing now. They're going out of state a lot. And they beat their last 3 teams combined by a score of 168-13. So it's almost like mirror images going at it.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the nicknames for St. Francis is they're kind of known as the Mater Dei of the East a little bit, and this is kind of like it's kind of being built as this is a challenge like when Mater Dei last season played IMG. That's that kind of caliber where it's 4- and 5-star players. Their number 1 guy, Chris Braswell, is the number 1 ranked, one of the top defensive ends in the country, and he's committed to Alabama. He's Crimson Tide's number 1 recruit. And then the opposite defensive end is Demon Clooney, who's an LSU commit, and he's related to the Clooney who plays in the NFL, the defensive lineman. So they're stacked. Jordan Tolles is an LSU committed safety. Fryer mentioned, Corum, who's a Michigan commit at running back, and the list just goes on and on. And, my partner on the Trinity League podcast, Scott Barajas, said that he believes St. Francis' defense is better than the IMG defense that the Monarchs faced last year. But Bryce Young is coming in, and the Monarchs are firing on all cylinders offensively. And if they can give Bryce Young some help, and they're going to have to stop the run too and play physical and defensively, that's a matchup to watch. How the Monarchs handle the ground attack of St. Francis.
We'll be all over it this weekend. It's going to be outstanding. But let's talk about some OC versus OC matchups right now, and that we'll start it off with 1-1 Villa Park taking on 3-0 Mission Viejo. This is at Mission Viejo Friday night in their last meeting. Last year, Mission Viejo beat VP 28-13, but hey, the Diablos had to end up forfeiting that game. We talked about that last year. So what did Villa Park do last week? They shut out previously undefeated Tribuca Hills 42-0. Steve, your thoughts?
Well, Villa Park is a really good team. I think, they're one of the top 3 or 4 public schools in Orange County. Great group of linebackers back there, and I think it's a good challenge for them. But Mission Viejo, my gosh, fellas, I think that Mission Viejo, that front group of theirs with Mascarenas back there at linebacker and, Kennelly and Schwenke on the defensive line, which is one of the better defensive lines we've seen in some time. It's interesting to me, Chad Johnson said, this was the best defense he's ever been around. Chad Johnson coached a lot of years over at St. John Bosco. Pretty good defense over there, too, so that says something. But I think it's a good challenge for both teams, but I like Mission Viejo taking this game. One thing I'd like to see Mission Viejo do maybe a little bit better is maybe throw the ball a little bit better. Still, that passing game still maybe not as crisp as it's going to get. Maybe that has a lot to do with quarterback Peter Costelli. Missed a lot of time in August because of injury, so maybe there's still kind of a click in there yet.
Okay, Dan, you were at the game where Mission Viejo beat La Habra 23-6. The defense had 4 sacks in that one, but I'm going to ask you, Dan, for Villa Park to put up some kind of competitive effort against the Diablos, Villa Park needs to do what?
Good question. You know, they're going to have to run the ball. I think Spartans like to be physical, and they did that, and they made big improvements just last week against Tribuco because the Spartans could not run the ball against Mater Dei at all. But they got Anthony Hakai going last week, 15 carries for 149 yards, 3 TDs, and he has a good tandem, a physical tandem, and that was Zach Branca, who had 10 carries for 98 yards. So they have this two-headed running back attack. Now, La Habra could not run the ball at all against Mission Viejo front. So it's going to be tough. They're going to have to be balanced. They're going to have to watch turnovers. It's going to be a tough game for Villa Park to win. I'll pick Mission Viejo, but I think they're going to have to, show against another high caliber team that they can run the ball and they can win some of that line of scrimmage. And they're going to have to diversify their passing attack as well. Give Stupin some time to throw.
Okay, and you mentioned the Trinity League podcast earlier, so I have to mention Camp Chronicles now because 2 of our teams are going at it. San Juan Hills at Edison. This should be an outstanding matchup. This is going to be an awesome game. Both teams are 2-1. This will be at Huntington Beach High School, where Edison is the home team. Friday night, Edison beat San Juan Hills last year 33-14, and San Juan Hills beat South Hills 42-7. I had coverage of that one, and if you haven't seen a game at the Badlands, that's one of the places to be on a Friday night. What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I think this is a great matchup. I'm going to be at this game, so I'm looking forward to seeing it over at Huntington Beach High School. Last week, Edison tossed 3 interceptions in that loss to Orange Lutheran. And San Juan Hills has an interception machine guy in Joey Hobart who, does everything you want a football player to do, catches touchdown passes, makes interceptions, blocks punts, blocks PATs. Just the guy, he's a Swiss Army knife sort of football player. I think this is a really cool matchup. I like San Juan Hills to take this one, but it's going to be a battle, man.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of the more competitive games on Friday night. Dan, you were talking a little bit about Edison and Olu off camera. Sure, they got intercepted 3 times, but you liked what you saw out of the Chargers, and they're going to have to bring some more of that at home Friday night.
Yeah, there was a lot of potential I saw in that Edison game. I saw some of the highlights. I mean, they were up 7-0 at halftime against Orange Lutheran, and a couple of the interceptions I saw a video of. They had guys that maybe had a half a step on the defensive back, and those were thrown balls toward the end zone. And so they had opportunities if they could execute, and they got beat by a late field goal. They played great defense, and both these teams, Edison and San Juan Hills, have played Orange Lutheran very close. Yes. So I think one thing that's probably missing right now is the execution in the pass game for Edison is something they have to work on. Cole Koffler is a really good receiver, tall kid, 6'2", 6'3". He had a quiet game against Orange Lutheran. They're going to have to Edison's got to find a way to get him going. And I'm going to pick San Juan Hills in this game. Just because I think, San Juan Hills got some things going because I like the progression that Hudson Jones has already showed at quarterback. I thought he showed some potential against Orange Lutheran, and he had a nice game against South Hills, 3 touchdown passes. And if they can run it, what they did with Austin Hogan last week, and he ran for over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, that gives Joey some help.
And if any of you Mater Dei Monarchs need your car wash, here's your guy.
I'll do it. I got to do Gary McKnight's car on Saturday and Rollo's car on Sunday, but Sunday afternoon I'm free.
Look at your schedule, and we'll figure it all out.
I'm not doing like a Camp Chronicles or a podcast or any of that. So
he washes cars.
Yeah, I'm just hanging out.
Got to do what you got to do. All right. Thanks to Steve. Thanks to Dan. I appreciate all the insight. I'm Jonathan, and we'll see you at the games.